Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You might be a little shocked by today's title, and I know what you're thinking. Lin, quitting caffeine? What in the world made you decide that? This is coming out of nowhere. Quitting caffeine? What are you in? What's going on? I know it seems very random, and I will admit, I was surprised at myself by making the decision. If you're a long-time listener of my podcast, you know I've always called myself a coffee lover, if not a coffee connoisseur. Whenever I go on a trip, I always pick up the coffee-related items, whether that's coffee beans, drip bags, or mocha pots. I actually have 3 mocha pots at home right now that I got from Italy, and I don't know how to handle that at this point. They are currently taking up space in a little corner of my coffee section as decorations since I've been quitting caffeine. But anyway, every once in a while throughout the episodes, I pour my heart out about how much I'm into coffee, and I never left it out whenever I talk about my daily routine and have vaguely emphasizes how coffee impacts my workflow in a good way, obviously. I even made an episode about it a few months back. It's called My Summer Coffee Routine, where I elaborated on my go-to coffee shop orders and my specific brewing methods at home. It's safe to say that I live and die for coffee. But how did I end up here, right? Well, that's just what I'll cover today. So recently, I've kind of started to reconsider my caffeine consumption because about a month ago, I went to a local clinic for a regular checkup, something that you're supposed to do once in a year. I mean, if you work a 9 to 5, you should get a checkup every year. It's a mandatory, to my knowledge. But if I'm being completely honest, I had completely forgotten about the importance of checkups. And I ended up going through my entire 20s without getting any. I think I definitely wasn't in a particularly protected state of mind back then. I mean, when you're in your 20s, you don't really care about your health, right? You just believe that you're healthy unless something feels off in your body. But now, I'm definitely much more protective of myself. Like when something starts to go wrong or feels off, I immediately am checking in on it because I genuinely care about my well-being now. But that wasn't always the case. However, ever since I turned 28, when I was entering into my late 20s, I've kind of started to feel my age and realized, well, it's time to listen to my body. I need to take things seriously. So I decided to back in the checkup game again. But the thing is, I got not so great results from the test I got this year. In fact, 2 years in a row. Last year, when I took a test, I got the same pretty bad results where I found out that I have a proteinuria. If you don't know what proteinuria is, there's more protein in your urine than normal. Usually, our urine doesn't have much protein because your kidneys filter your blood to keep important things like protein while getting rid of any waste. But if your kidneys are damaged or not working well, protein can leak into your urine. Simply put, if you have over amount of protein in your urine, that means you may or may not have a kidney disease. So the second that I got the results, I went back to the clinic and retested. But this time, it came back negative. They said, you don't have proteinuria. Nothing showed up. So I was like, well, maybe it was a temporary thing. Maybe I was sort of under the weather that day, or maybe fasting the day before the checkup caused the positive results. Everything seemed fine on the surface. Nothing's off, nothing showed up. So ever since then, I really didn't think much of it. But fast forward to this year, when I got my results from the checkup, the proteinuria showed up again. And I was like, this shit is real. This is not a coincidence. Something's clearly wrong with my kidney. And I need to figure it out. I'm shook. I am perplexed. So this time, I drove my ass to the nephrologist. Basically, the doctor said I have elevated levels of protein in my urine. But it's not at a clinical level yet, so for now, we will monitor over the next month and retest. We also scheduled an ultrasound test to pinpoint the root cause of this issue. So this is where I'm at. Fortunately, I haven't been diagnosed with anything yet. I haven't received any medication, but when the doctor gave me another month before the retest, I kind of took it as a sign that I really need to take better care of my body. This whole thing feels like a huge wake-up call. Even though I can't pinpoint the exact reason why I ended up here, all I can do right now is just reflect on any shortcomings in my well-being, listen to my body, and give it the proper love and care that it deserves. I feel like this is sort of like I know it sounds quite extreme, but I feel like this is sort of like my last chance to redeem myself, work toward better results next time. So ever since I went to the hospital, I kind of started to circling back to my diet and routine to see if there were any missing pieces. Like, did I drink too much? Did I consume too much caffeine? Did I neglect my nutrition? Was I not getting enough sleep or exercise? Was I too stressed? Like, what's going on? And when I figured things out, I've sort of narrowed it down to a couple of things. Number 1, drink too much caffeine. Number 2, lack of sleep. Number 3, lack of movement. Now, let's dive deep into the coffee part, because that's the rabbit hole we're gonna down today, okay? My relationship with coffee has been ongoing for over 5 years. Like, since I started living alone and working a 9-to-5 job, I began drinking at least 1 cup a day. And I think it got worse ever since I switched to a different job. I had a coffee consistently every day for the past 2 years or so. Mind you, I'm not a tea person or into other beverages like soda, juice, even energy drinks for that matter. So coffee has been my only caffeine option. And you know what? Not only do I need a good amount of caffeine to function properly, but I also genuinely love the taste of coffee. I love the smell, the flavor, and the versatility of coffee recipes. So it's less about being dependent on caffeine and more about relying on coffee itself. You know what I mean? Now, never in my old years have I ever thought this habit will come back to bite me one day. I've always believed my caffeine consumption was relatively healthy because I never had a coffee on an empty stomach, and I always made sure to avoid drinking after 4 p.m. as possible. Also, I swear by the benefits of coffee. I truly believed it was healthier than any other caffeinated drinks because most studies I've stumbled upon online says you should drink coffee. You know what I mean? Like majority of the articles I've seen online, it says you should drink coffee because it supports heart health, improves cognitive function, boosts metabolism, and lowers the risk of certain disease. I couldn't find anything negative about coffee. But all of that to say, I can't deny the downsides as well. I feel like it has low impact in my digestion system, especially since I prefer strong coffee. I've also noticed that having iced coffee, specifically after a heavy lunch, really makes me bloated. I don't know why, but for some reason, cold foods or drinks in general never sit well with me. I can't ignore the fact that it occasionally affects my sleep quality. And on top of that, I've created an unnecessary dependency. Like, ever since I became somehow addicted to caffeine, I've convinced myself that I can focus on anything without coffee. I cannot imagine my mornings without it. I've actually tried doing this challenge like literally so many times. It's kind of embarrassing. Maybe I'll go like half a day without caffeine and I'll be like, this is affecting me mentally. Like, this is not worth it. But conveniently or unfortunately, given my current circumstances where I found out I'm not 100% well. I think it's time to cut on caffeine. This feels like a perfect timing. This is not a choice that I made completely on my own. I think I would be less rigid about it if I had made this decision on my own, but my body is telling me that something's going wrong right now. So it is what it is. I had to take it as a sign. So I decided cutting out caffeine, and I think I ended up sticking with it even longer. It's now been almost 2 months, and I think it'd be great to share my journey with y'all and some sort of takeaways I've learned along the way. I'm going to lay down all the changes I experienced in my body from day one when I cut caffeine. But before we dive in, I think I'm going to briefly cover about my plan. If you may wonder, Lynn, what was your plan? How could you pull this off? Is there any specific method? Well, if I'm being completely honest, I don't have any sort of super structured plan. I just knew that I didn't want to consume any type of caffeine, whether that's coffee, green tea, energy drinks, or anything else you can think of for the next 1 or 2 months. Since I started this challenge, only consuming water. Water. That's all I was drinking all day. I just decided to go cold turkey right away. Now let's move on to the real talk. The withdrawal symptoms. The day one was brutal. I mean, I think the first week in general was probably the worst week that's ever been. The headaches were outrageous. I used to take medication every time I had a headache, but this time I didn't. Because, for one, I wanted to test my tolerance for pain, but two, I didn't want to rely on any substances. In fact, the whole theme of this challenge is about not relying on any external substances. So taking medicine to ease the pain would have defeated the purpose. Even something like edible or Tylenol would definitely go against it. So I just decided to endure it and kind of tested my limit. During that period, I'll get up and feel groggy, unmotivated, and inattentive every morning. I feel less productive. Focusing for long periods of time was just not an option right now. The brain fog was real. I was super tired. I also started taking naps. For some reason, I was super tempted to take a nap every time, which is quite unusual for me because I don't usually take a nap. So overall, I felt like I had less energy throughout the day, and it was just so hard for me to fully lock in. Not to mention, it always felt like something was missing from me, or at least my morning routine. You know, you wake up, you get the warm cup of coffee in your hands, you get the smell of it, the first sip, especially if you're someone who always eats breakfast, coffee is essential. You can't rule it out overnight. Because many of the breakfast meals we have on a daily basis really pair well with coffee. Whether that's oatmeal, a bagel, sandwich, whatever. So for me, as someone who's a huge breakfast person, it felt like my core joy in the morning routine was taken away from me. Now, in weeks 2 and 3, this is when the transformation really started to blossom. All those nasty side effects went away, and I found that I had even more energy than when I used to consume caffeine. Probably the biggest benefit to my experience personally was how it vastly improved my gut health. Like I said, when I drink iced coffee, typically cold brew since it contains high caffeine levels, it hurts my stomach at times. And I don't know why. Especially after having a lunch, like a heavy lunch, my tummy starts crumbling. It's crazy. I know this can vary from person to person, but for me, from my experience, it definitely caused some discomfort, such as tummy aches or bloating, even if it's not on an empty stomach. But ever since I quit caffeine, it's gone. It's all gone. Nothing is bugging me. My tummy couldn't be happier. And now, in the most recent months 2 to be exact, I feel fantastic without caffeine, to be honest. The benefits are still there. No headaches, no grogginess. Just the natural energy that my body produces on its own without anything external. I also feel like I've been consistently happier because I no longer have the mindset where before I have my coffee, I'm just angry, irritated, and, bitter, and I need the coffee or else I'm gonna be that type of person. One of the biggest takeaways from this challenge is that it's doable. It's so much more doable than I thought it would be. I always thought living a caffeine-free life while working a 9 to 5 was absolutely nonsense. I honestly think one of the biggest reasons I consumed that much caffeine was because I was scared of not being able to lock in when working. I just took it preemptively, assuming that I would need it to work. But I guess it turned out to be one of my limiting beliefs. Now I realized I don't actually need that much caffeine to focus. I'm fine without it. I am now a lot more hesitant to consume caffeine, knowing that the symptoms that I would have to experience again if were to cut caffeine out would be that bad. Like, I never want to go back to the level of caffeine addiction because those withdrawal symptoms were no joke. They're crazy. I do think that the headaches was a big wake-up call for me because I didn't even know my caffeine addiction was that bad to the point where my headache would be like the worst headache I've ever experienced in my life. I also had an epiphany. There are so many more benefits to living a caffeine-free life than to consuming caffeine. I got to experience a lot of benefits through my body, and one of them was improved hydration. I started drinking more water. I mean, I've always been good at drinking water, but I drank even more. Plus, I got to enjoy the tea as well. It was probably the first time in my life that I was actively looking for tea that aligned with my tastes. I always went for non-caffeinated teas like chickpea tea that I got from my grandma, barley tea, corn tea, whatever. They're really good. I've got to appreciate them. The one thing that comes to my mind right now is I made a pretty strong statement on my podcast that tea is boring. Now I feel like I'm such a hypocrite because I probably say I enjoy the tea. I may have said something wrong. Tea's pretty good. I mean, the flavor-wise, I still find coffee better, but I believe tea is healthier. Cutting down on caffeine has definitely taken my overall health to a whole new level. It reduced anxiety and helped break the cycle of dependency. It also significantly improved my sleep quality. Every day when I get up now, I just feel so much more well-rested. Moreover, it can lead to more stable energy levels throughout the day, which is rather surprising. This is something I would never expected to happen. It was such an eye-opening experience for me. Also, I started to go into gym again. It's been more than 5 years since I moved away from the gym. For many excuses, for many excuses. My fitness goals kind of fell by the wayside because life got in the way. But it feels so good to be back in the gym phase. And now I feel like all these transitions that I integrated into my body, such as exercising, eating healthy, and sleeping well, have become a sort of butterfly effect, boosting the impact on my caffeine-free journey. Now I know I never plan to drink caffeine regularly again. Seeing all of these benefits that I've experienced over the past 2 months, it just makes no sense for me to get back on it and to start relying on something external. Or maybe once in a while when I'm feeling real down or on a special occasion where I go on a trip or something, I'll probably have a few sips of coffee, but for the most part, I'm gonna stay completely off of it. So if you're also in the same boat as me and you're severely addicted to caffeine, I hope this gave you the courage to try cutting it out and see how that works. That's alright for today. Thank you for listening and hanging out. It's always a pleasure. If you enjoyed this episode, stream anywhere you get podcasts. New episodes of Love Being Alone every Thursday, new English episode every month. Find Love Being Alone on Instagram at Love Being Alone by Lin. Find me on Instagram at YEXLINX. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.